House, the podcast where we talk about movies, TV shows, and video games. And we hear that train coming. It's rolling down the bend. And we ain't seen the end of this Infinity Train since I don't know when. That's right, folks. You're on board for Season 3 of Infinity Train. Joining me once again is Dave.
I'm here again.
He never left, folks. Trust me, he's been trying. His number's stuck at 202 for some reason. We're trying to figure it out right now. That's called a reference.
That's called foreshadowing.
Dun, dun, dun. But folks, we're on to Season 3, and while I personally like Season 1 the best, I feel like it's the tightest season altogether. Man, Season 3 gives it a close run for its money for me personally. This is definitely the darkest of all the seasons, but I feel like you have a character who goes through the largest growth for your main character, and oh boy, you just feel bad for some of the other characters they meet along the way.
It's probably the best villain of the series this season's.
Yeah, I personally like the villains of Season 2 the best, just as the constant threat, but in terms of development of a villain, I would definitely agree Season 3 wins by a mile.
I mean, we'll go into detail later, but this is the one season where the villain is constantly there.
Mm-hmm. Though you may not realize it at first.
But this season, we're picking up from a plot thread established in Season 2. There's basically a cult of younger passengers called the Apex who, because they arrived on the train during Amelia's reign, don't know how the train's supposed to work, so they think, oh, it's good when the number goes up, right? And they're just fine with killing all the denizens and taking whatever they want. And it focuses on the two leads, Grace and Simon, who, when they get separated from the rest of the group during a strange circumstance, they try to travel back, and along the way they meet Hazel, a little girl with her numbers seemingly turned off, and Tuba, her guardian gorilla.
Yeah, and I just love Tuba. Moment of silence for Tuba.
When you first told me that, when you started watching it, I was like inwardly grinning because I knew what was coming.
Thanks a lot for that. I think I texted you 2 episodes in. It's like, I freaking love Tuba.
You know, if I was watching this with you in person, I would have, when the big scene came, I would have tricked you into talking out loud how much you liked her right as it happened.
Have our own Red Wedding episode right then and there.
But yeah, your thoughts on this since you're the newbie?
Yeah, it's like I said, I think Season 1's the best overall, but man, this season comes close to me. I just have a couple questions kind of left over from the very end of this season that I felt like the last 5 minutes of the episode of the series kind of wrapped up a little too quickly. I get they had time restraints and everything, but still, I could have dealt with an extra 3 minutes tying up some loose ends. But outside of that, this was about flawless television right here. Because essentially, you're introduced to these characters who, as Dave said, they don't know how the train's supposed to work. And it's very much a Lord of Flies situation where the children are just, well, little shithead children, let's be honest. So, normal children.
I mean, this is a distinct entity in that our protagonists are initially assholes, pretty much.
Yes, I mean, it's definitely a change up from them having lessons they need to learn to, oh, you've been reinforcing the wrong lesson for, probably 5 years or so now. Mm-hmm. Just going based on the flashbacks and the age the characters seem to be at the present time.
I think they've said that Grace and Simon are 18 and they both got on when they were around 10, so.
Oh, even longer then.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you can definitely see how when you're living your life one way for essentially half of your life, just how you could get so far down the wrong path. And the fact that they have a redemption arc for one character and that it flows so naturally just speaks volumes to how well this show is written.
And this season somewhat switches up the format from the last two. In the first two seasons, like for the bulk of the seasons, each episode had like the focus was on the new car and the unique environment it had, and only like maybe the last two episodes of each season is when it really dove into the lore and just the bigger conflict. Here, things switch up at the halfway point.
Yeah, and I'd definitely say because of this, like, I feel almost, how would I put this? Like, I felt like I had less of a connection to each individual train, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Like this season stopped being about like just the journey back.
Yes, exactly.
But overall, what did you think of the characters?
Oh, definitely for me, the characters were the highlight of this season. I mean, for one, you get more backstory into the cat and why the cat's the way it is, which that alone is a huge moment.
I mean, the cat is best denizen.
Yeah, we'll see about that, but definitely the best. How would you classify the cat? Not a villain, not an enemy, not a friend. It's a frenemy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cat.
She's her own thing. Sometimes ally, sometimes adversary.
Basically, it's a cat.
Mm-hmm.
But like Grace, the main character, like bravo on her arc. That was some amazing stuff. She goes from like complete rebel to truly caring for another character or through the through the course of the episode, and it's like I just got to give them credit on how well they did this. And there's Simon.
He sucks.
He's an
as
ass.
a person. Like
He's an asshole.
Well, actually, I think the unique thing about him is when you examine everything he does and says, he technically doesn't have an arc. Like the point of him is how he completely refuses to change.
I mean, I would disagree there. I think he definitely has an arc.
But it's a negative
It's
one.
just people don't always change for the better.
Which is, I think, a message more shows that have younger audiences need to hear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, definitely throughout the show, like there is some stuff like there's hints at like a romantic chemistry between the two early on in the series, and by the end, that is long gone.
Basically, the first half of the season is giving you a false impression of how it's going to go.
Mm-hmm. But there's a moment, and you'll know that moment when you get to it, where it's like, oh, they're not going the way we thought we would have predicted they would with his character at all. And I will say, given what happened, we see of him in the flashbacks, it makes sense why his character is the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are
just a second, please.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Anyways, as I was saying, just seeing the flashbacks we see of this character and what happens to him, thanks, Kat, it makes total sense why this character is the way that he is.
Mm-hmm.
He's still an asshole, though.
And I'm glad they didn't try to redeem him in the end.
Yeah, for those of you who aren't aware, Dave, one of his biggest pet peeves is ever since Avatar came out, there's been so many shows that try to rip off the Soku arc with Avatar, where they redeem the villain, not realizing, hey, it took them 3 seasons of groundwork to pull that arc off.
And even then, like, the bad things he did during season 1 never got that bad. I think that's a key point a lot of writers miss. They feel like no matter how terrible the antagonist in question is, they think, oh, you can still redeem them.
Exactly. But that's a rant for another day, folks.
But I mean, like, if anything, the season is Grace's redemption arc. She gradually realizes just how toxic her ideology was.
Yes, and it's the tale of two cities almost, where one character kind of learns from their mistakes and grows, and the other leans into it more. And it just kind of shows how toxicity and not being willing to forgive or open your mind up to learning or admitting that you may be wrong can just poison a person.
Yeah, especially in those last 2 episodes, the way Simon talks is straight up like abusive boyfriend language.
Oh, hugely.
Which, should we go into spoilers? Because there's a lot to spoil this time around.
Oh, yeah. So, folks, well, honestly, we haven't convinced you by episode 3 to watch this show. I don't think we're going to. But please watch this show.
And hashtag renew Infinity Train.
Hashtag
Okay, if I had it
in a movie.
If I had a Twitter account, it would have been the one hashtag I actually would have bothered following for a fan campaign. But anyways, yeah, the big thing. Like, we know Simon and Grace, they don't like denizens, or as they call them, gnolls. And throughout, like, the first couple of episodes, like, they don't like Tuba, even though Hazel really likes her, and they're planning to get rid of her once they get back to the Apex. But not even halfway through, Simon just kills her.
Yeah, and Tuba, I would say, it was probably my favorite of the supporting characters we ran across in this season. I loved Tuba. I should have known something terrible was going to happen. But yeah, the character is flat out murdered, and then
Simon just brags about it.
Oh yeah, it's like there's zero remorse whatsoever, because the way they explained it in the show is they don't see them as even real. It's like they see him as like killing off a character in a video game.
I mean, the metaphor this season uses is almost the same one Undertale used.
I'll be honest, I'm one of the 3 people who haven't played Undertale.
I won't go into it, but and then, like, Hazel turned out not to be what she seemed to be.
Yeah, it's and probably the best twist of the series, I gotta say.
Mm-hmm.
The way they're able to tie it back to season 1 with the turtles and everything, it was just like, okay, you guys were playing the long game on this one. Good job. Good job.
Because after she didn't show up in season 2, I wasn't sure whether or not Emilia was actually going to be brought back, and the way they worked her in the second half of the season was masterful.
Mm-hmm. Especially when you consider, like, you can definitely tell that she's been changed by the events of season 1, but she is not a happy person.
She's a grump now, but an adorable grump.
Yeah. I do have some questions on, that is my one complaint of, just, I kind of wanted some more answers on what exactly her and Hazel did. What happened to her and Hazel afterwards. Because I do feel like this season kind of wrapped up fairly quickly. But then I guess they're also leaving it open for future seasons, so hopefully
yeah, actually,
season 5.
the creator has teased that one of the 4 remaining future seasons, because he wants to do a total of 8, because get it, 8 sideways is the infinity symbol. Like, I think season 7 was going to be the Hazel and Amelia season. Everyone thought season 4 was going to be.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
Though I'm glad that for Grace's character arc that she and Hazel kind of parted on a bitter note. Like, she realizes that this one person she started to really care about, she just fucked things up with her completely, and she has to live with that fact.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely not the kind of the double-edged sword of it being wrapped up so quickly is you don't get the nice everything's happy at the ending that you did. Like, there's definitely a lot of work to do because at the end she's with the other denizens and
Passengers, like,
sorry, passengers, and it's very much, oh wow, I've led these kids down the wrong way for a long time. Now it's up to me to kind of help lead them the right way, you know?
And this was also another by design choice. Like, the creator said he sees season 3 as a tragedy in terms of its story.
Oh, I can definitely see why.
Mm-hmm. Like, it's a series of bad things happening with a glimmer of hope at the end.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you take a look at what happened to our villain in this one versus season 1, and it's like, nope, no happy ending for you.
I mean, he gets what he wanted. He has the highest number ever.
Mm-hmm. Which I will say, minor complaint, part of his number being so large that it completely covered his face entirely. That didn't quite feel justified compared to what happened to the villain of season 1 and how large her number was. But I'm gonna ignore it over the rule of cool, where if it looks cool enough, I'll forgive it.
And also, I think, like, it's established Amelia's reign was 33 years long or something close to that. So maybe with her case, it wasn't hugely bad things, but just lots of bad things that added up over time. Whereas Simon was deliberately murdering people.
This is true.
And there was just a plaintive refuse to change on his part.
Mm-hmm.
Which I really did like his backstory with the cat, who we find out her name is actually Samantha.
I'm still referring to her as the cat.
I
I'm
mean,
sorry.
I like that he was the one passenger, whereas with the first 2 seasons, she was always, even when she was nicer, she was kind of being a tease to them. Like, she tried to be genuinely nice with him, even after everything.
Mm-hmm. Although I will say she is definitely in my book complicit to his downfall, but
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
that's a whole nother topic.
And the whole sequence of Grace being trapped in her memories.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was terrifying. Like, I thought they might have, I don't know, this might just be me, but I got the impression like she might have been there for months or so.
Yeah, that's something left ambiguous. And
Yeah, it's like, I'm not saying it's for sure what they were saying, but that's just the impression I got.
mm-hmm. Which, what else says? Ironically, maybe my favorite episode was the one where the shift happens, the color clock episode.
Yeah, I was actually going to say that.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say my favorite episode of this was probably the last 2 episodes. I kind of consider one episode.
Mm-hmm.
But like in terms of if we're doing the favorite train thing,
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely go with the colored clock one.
Mm-hmm. And
It also does have my favorite joke of he's a 10 and I need him to be about a 6.
mm-hmm. Like, that episode just so greatly tricks you into thinking things are getting better.
Mm-hmm. Like it did an excellent job. I mean, it's definitely the churning point of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And just like bravo to the writers of this. Like, excellent job.
Though as soon as he said he was going back for Tuba, I knew it was going to go south, but props for having me fooled for a few seconds.
Mm-hmm. Well done.
And of course, like the lullaby scene from the next episode, which is just the good kind of tearjerker.
Yeah, this one definitely was the most emotional of the series, I would say so.
Mm-hmm. And also, go on.
Go ahead.
Well, it sounded like you had more a thought.
No, I was more going to check if you had any more thoughts left, so you go ahead.
And also, I liked how they specifically said, like, Hazel wasn't just Amelia's creation, but she was one of her attempts at recreating Ulrich.
Yeah, that's kind of where I had some more questions I kind of wanted followed up with, but maybe we'll get a few more seasons out of this, hopefully. I don't know, HBO, you got money.
Mm-hmm. And I like one thing this and later season 4 would do is, like, at the end credits, like the image they would show of the protagonist in seasons 1 and 2, they would just use one image for the whole run except for the finale. Here it evolves each episode to reflect the change in who's alive and what their physical condition is.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, you got anything else you want to say before we wrap this one up, Dave?
Well, I gotta say, props to the creator for always being a tease about whether or not there was going to be another season. Like, during season 1's airing, he always said that it was just a miniseries, but then there was a little teaser at the end. And then, like, even though season 3 was recording while season 1 was airing, like, he said nothing between season 2's airing and when the trailer for season 3 came out. And then season 4 was also already made, but he basically tried to make us think the show had already been canceled, and then we just got a surprise announcement of season 4 like 2 months before it premiered.
Yeah, which hopefully we'll have another one of those surprise announcements, because I hate it when I'm introduced to a show after it's already canceled.
Though I think like at least 4 different seasons like gives us a lot more opportunities of things to look back on than a lot of prematurely canceled shows.
Yes, this is true. I mean, this isn't a Firefly situation where you're just constantly wondering what could have been.
Mm-hmm. And overall, I just think this is one of the strongest seasons of the show. Their protagonists are well developed. The drama, it really hit me close to home sometimes, and how dark it got, I felt it handled in a mature way, and I like the bittersweet note it concluded on, and just how things are getting better, but a lot of things were still messed up along the way. And I think even though I really liked season 1 and 2, this was the season that made me realize, oh yeah, this is one of the greats of modern animation.
Yeah, as for me, like I said, I personally prefer season 1 the best out of all of these, but season 3 is a close second. Definitely would recommend you watch it. And yeah, just overall, this is an amazing show. I'd put it up there with Gravity Falls in terms of just high quality writing.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, with that being said, we want to thank you for joining us once again on this trip on the Infinity Train, and we'll see you next time. Dave, thank you again for joining us.
We have one more ride, at least for now.